abandoned her baby, and the worst happened. The village of Kijiji lay hidden between the hills, where the fog always lingered longer than it should. The elders whispered of spirits that watched every newborn with greedy eyes. No one dared enter the forest at night, not even the bravest hunters. But Amina, a young mother, had a secret she hoped would stay hidden. She had given birth in secret under the cover of moonlight. The cries of her baby pierced her heart, yet she felt a cold emptiness she couldn't explain. The child was a curse, she told herself, a burden that would ruin her life. Her family had demanded she leave the baby at the river, and fear made her obey. That night, she wrapped the baby in a thin cloth and walked to the river's edge. The forest seemed alive, whispering in voices she couldn't recognize. Every step felt heavier, as if the trees themselves were warning her. But her mind was made. She would not turn back. When she placed the baby on the muddy bank, the water shivered unnaturally. A strange wind lifted the cries of the child into a haunting melody. Amina ran, her heart pounding, feeling the forest's eyes on her. The village lights seemed distant, as if they belonged to another world. Days passed, but guilt clawed at her sleep. At night, she saw shadows moving in the corners of her heart. Sometimes she thought she heard soft whispers calling her name. Others times she felt tiny hands brush against her skin. The elders noticed her change. Her laughter disappeared, replaced by murmurs and trembling. They whispered among themselves, saying, "The spirits have touched her soul." Amina only smiled faintly, hiding the terror inside. One evening, a woman appeared at her door, draped in white cloth. Her eyes were black as coal, and her voice carried the wind's hollow moan. "You cannot escape what you have done," she said. Amina froze, recognizing the forest's warning in her words. The woman told her of a curse old as the hills themselves. Any child abandoned on that river would return, not as a child, but as a shadow of sorrow. It will haunt your nights and bleed into your days, she warned. Amina shivered, but tried to deny it. That night, Amina awoke to a cry, unlike any she had heard. It was distant, yet inside her chest, echoing, she saw a shadow figure rocking on the riverbank outside her window. Its eyes glowed with the same emptiness she had felt in herself. The villagers began to whisper about the baby in the river. Fishermen claimed to see small hands reaching out from the water at dusk. Children cried for no reason, claiming a black-eyed baby followed them. No one confronted Amina. The secret was hers alone. Sleep became impossible. Each night, the cries grew louder, sometimes chanting her name. She could feel the shadow of her child crawling into her dreams. The line between reality and nightmare blurred. One night, she tried to leave the village. She ran, to the hills, hoping distance would save her. But the fog thickened and the whispers multiplied. The baby's shadow was there, floating over every hill and valley. Amina returned, exhausted and trembling. She prayed at the old shrine, asking for forgiveness. The elders wanted her to leave offerings, but she felt the wind laugh at her. Forgiveness was not meant for those who abandoned life. Soon, animals in the village began acting strangely. Chickens refused to lay eggs, goats went mad, and the dogs howled at corners where nothing stood. Some villagers swore they saw a small figure sleeping between shadows. It was the child, they said, taken by the spirits, returned to demand what was lost. Amina grew pale and thin, her hair streaked with grey. Every reflection showed a small hand pressed against the glass behind her. At night, she could hear tiny footsteps pacing her heart. The forest was patient. It did not forget. She tried to speak to the child in her dreams, but the shadow did not answer with words. It only stared, a hollow mirror of all the pain she caused. Her own voice became unfamiliar. One night, she followed the cries to the river again. The water shimmered with an unnatural light, and a small figure sat on the bank, waiting. Its eyes reflected her own, filled with sadness and fury. Amina could not move. The forest held her in place. The figure reached out a tiny hand. "Mother," it whispered, though its lips did not move. Her heart shattered, knowing she had created this horror. The river accepted no excuses. From that night, the village feared the baby's shadow more than any spirit. Children would not play near the river, and adults avoided the woods entirely. Some said the baby was a spirit of justice, others said it was revenge itself. Amina could only watch in silence torment. One day, she tried to flee again, carrying gifts and offerings, but the wind rose, carrying laughter like broken glass. The shadow followed, floating above her like a storm cloud. Every bath she took circled back to the village. Desperate, she sought the help of the witch in the forest. The witch was old, her skin like cracked earth, her eyes reflecting centuries. "You cannot undo what was done," she croaked, "but you can see it clearly before it consumes you." The witch gave her a mirror. "Look and remember. Look and remember," she said. When Amina gazed, the shadow of her child appeared behind her reflection, crying. Its sorrow was immense, a wave that pulled her into guilt and fear. Night after night, the shadow haunted her. She could hear tiny fingers tap on windows and doors. Whispers slithered through her heart like snakes. Her own thoughts turned against her, creating horrors even the forest had not imagined. The villagers began to notice Amina's suffering. Mothers whispered to their children not to anger the spirits of abandoned children. They warned of a shadow that could steal your soul. Amina became a cautionary tale, yet no one approached her to help. Amina tried to forget the baby, but it was everywhere. It followed her in the river's reflection, in the wind's whistle, in the flicker of firelight. Every place she went, the small shadow lingered. She could not escape her own creation. Her dreams became prisons. Each night she saw the baby grow in strange, twisted forms. Sometimes it wore her face, sometimes it is own. Always accusing, always sad. She walked screaming, drenched in sweat. The cries still echoing. She returned to the river. One last time, the water glowed under a red moon, and the shadow floated above him. The air smelled of iron and sorrow. She fell to her knees, begging, but the river did not answer. Then the shadow spoke for the first time. You gave me life, but not love, it said. Her tears fell like rain, but her heart was too broken to hold them all. The river surged, carrying the shadow away, but leaving its echo in her soul. From that night, Amina was different. Her eyes held storms, and her voice trembled at whispers. Children feared her, saying they could see tiny hands in her hair at night. Even the elders avoided her gaze. Yet something changed. She began caring for the village's orphans quietly, with trembling hands and soft words, perhaps in small acts. She hoped to balance the darkness she had unleashed, but every smile was haunted by memory. The shadow never turned, but it never left. Sometimes in the corner of a room, or behind a tree, its eyes would appear. Amina could feel its judgment, patient and silent. Life continued, but her soul bore the scar. Seasons changed, and the village prospered cautiously. Yet parents would still whisper warnings to their daughters. Never abandon life, or the forest will return it. Amina only nodded, haunted in silence. One night she dreamed of her child laughing. It was a soft, fleeting sound, full of innocence she had never known. She woke with tears, a bittersweet ache in her chest. The memory was both cruel and comforting. Villagers spoke of strange lights on the river during the new moon. Some swore it was the baby's spirit playing, others said it was a warning for mothers. Amina knew the truth and carried it quietly in her chest. Years passed, and Amina grew afraid. Her hair turned silver, and her hands shook with age. Yet she still fed stray children who wandered near the river. She had become a living apology, though the dead was eternal. One evening she sat by the river, staring at the moon's reflection. For a moment the water shimmered, and she saw a small shadow waving. Her heart ached with love and guilt intertwined. She whispered, I'm sorry, and the wind carried it away. That night she fell into a deep sleep. Her body never woke again. The villagers found her by the river, peaceful with a faint smile. They said she had finally found rest, though no one knew if it was forgiveness or surrender. The river seemed calmer. After that, children would play near its edge without fear. Yet on certain nights, shadows danced in the water's reflection, a reminder of what had been lost and what could never be returned. The elders told the story for generations. They spoke of a mother, a shadow, in the river that held secrets. The tale was meant to warn, but also to remind life and love must never be abandoned. Sometimes, when the wind carries whispers through the village, people hear a soft lullaby. It is not a sad note, but full of longing. Those who listen closely feel a gentle sorrow in their hearts. The baby, in some way, lives in memory. Amina's house eventually fell to the forest. Fines covered their walls, and the roof caved in. Children swore at night they could see a figure rocking an invisible cradle. The village accepted it silently, a mix of fear and reverence. Travelers passing through would hear warnings from the villagers. Do not abandon life, or it will turn to you, they said. Few believed until they saw the strange lights by the river. Then they understood, even briefly, the weight of guilt and love. Sometimes a mother would stand by the river, imagining the shadow of her lost child. She would feel the cool wind brush against her cheek, and for a fleeting moment the sorrow would feel shared. The forest reminded all that nothing truly vanished. The story of Amina became legend, whispered with trembling voices. It was about fear, regret, and the consequences of abandoning life, but also about the enduring connection between a mother and a child. Even a shadow cannot erase what was born. In the end, the river kept this secret. The shadow never food gone. Amina's soul lingered in stories and small acts of care. The village thrived, yet hearts remembered the cost of abandonment. And somewhere, a child's laughter mingled with the wind, bittersweet, eternal.